Hey guys, so I wanted to jump into 16 and 17, chapter 16 and 17 of Hope Never Dies. Because it's really starting to get juicy. Like, it was already juicy at the beginning, but now it's like we're getting closer to the middle where all the juice is. So, we left off with Steve, Barack, and Biden looking through a hotel room for evidence. They had met, kind of, this woman who was also snooping around, but she didn't do it legally. So, and then they found that the one chair in the room had been moved to cover something up, and there was, what was hidden was a patch of carpet removed and a pink stain on the plywood underneath it. So, let's find out what that is. Chapter 16. I left a message on Lieutenant Esposito's voicemail, letting her know we needed to talk ASAP. Since it was past 9 o'clock, I wasn't sure if we would hear from her until morning. Police had to sleep sometime, one assumed. No luck, Barack said, reading the expression on my face. I shook my head. No answer. Steve joined us in the car after returning the key to the front desk. The night clerk didn't have a clue about the mysterious woman. The woman, not surprisingly. The unhelpful gentleman also claimed ignorance when asked about the missing square of the carpet. He thought somebody might have taken it as a souvenir. I laughed. The only souvenirs people take home from places like this are bed bugs. I guess we're done here then, Steve said. We're waiting for Esposito's call, I said. A few minutes, Barack said, much to Steve's obvious distress. We can wait a few minutes. I nodded toward the room. What do you think happened in there? Somebody spilled something on the carpet? Steve said. I glared at him in the rearview mirror. No crap, Matlock. Cool down, you guys, Barack said. Steve's right. All we know for sure is that something was spilled on the carpet. Blood, I said. We don't know that, Joe. Would you go to all that trouble to cover up a ketchup stain? No, you wouldn't. The woman wasn't there long enough to cut up the carpet and move the chair, so we can forget about her for the moment. If there's even a chance that Sven's blood in there. I had the scenario all worked out in my head already. There was something Detective Capitore had said the other day that kept coming back to me. He may have been dead already. I'd done a little Googling and found that rigor mortis takes up to 2 hours to set in. Medical examiners can't determine the exact time of death. All they can give you is an approximate time frame. Being hit by a train would almost certainly muddy the waters further. If the faint pink stain on the plywood was indeed Finn's blood, it was possible that Finn hadn't died of a heart attack or an overdose or even suicide. He could have been murdered. I picked my phone up. No calls. I would have heard it ring, but sometimes missed calls show up that don't ring, for whatever reason. Something happened in that room, I said. Something awful. Even if it had nothing to do with Finn, the cops need to take a look. Steve leaned in between the seats. Maybe it's the police who ripped up the carpet? Did you think of that? Maybe they took it to test whatever was on it and left it out of the case file? If it was a dead end, sure. I swallowed hard. I was searching for a comeback, but he had a point. I'd gone so far down one road that I hadn't stopped to examine any other possibilities. You may have a point, I squeaked. I can't hear you, Steve said. I said it's possible, okay? Barack stuck a hand between us. No need to raise your voice, Joe. We all can hear you just fine. I placed both hands on the wheel to calm myself. Steve's right. I'm sure the police have already checked all of this out. When Esposito calls back, it'll be to chew me a new asshole. I'm not gonna say what I'm not. No. And you know what? She'd be within her rights to do that. I'm a grown man. I can take it. But damn it, something's not right. Something stinks to high hell. Barack placed placed a hand on my shoulder. I understand your frustration, Joe, but we've already gone above and beyond. When you talk to the lieutenant, tell her about the woman we saw. Tell her about the missing carpet. If she's as good as everyone says she is, she'll do the right thing and put more detectives on this investigation. She'll connect the dots. If we had our heads screwed on straight, we could have caught that woman red-handed. Instead, say we realized she had broken into the room, Brock said. What difference would it have really made? We couldn't have held her against her will. Steve could have. Isn't that right, Steve? He cleared his throat. Technically, you're correct. If we witness a crime in progress, service agents are allowed to make arrests without a warrant. See? I tapped Barack on the arm. But I left my handcuffs in the little beast, Steve continued. Speaking of which, we shouldn't leave her at the Walmart for too long. Renaissance won't be happy if anything happens to her baby. I glanced back at Barack. Renaissance was Michelle's service code name. I thought the car was yours. He didn't look at me. The little beast is insured by that tiny Australian gecko, he said, holding his thumb. He's Australian. I thought he was English. Pretty sure there's an English gecko. Is it? Well, my whole world has just been... ha. Hold on. I read ahead. He said, holding his thumb and index finger a couple inches apart for Steve. She'll be fine. It's a British gecko, I said. I was right. Barack and Steve both stared at me. The insurance company mascot, I said. He's British, not Australian. Barack rubbed the fatigue from his eyes. I just don't know about you sometimes, Joe. I just don't know. I stuck my keys in the ignition. Besides my Challenger, there was only 3 cars and a pickup in the parking lot. Either motel wasn't doing much business tonight, or most of its clientele arrived on foot. A hot pillow joints like this is I guys the ladder. Suddenly, a thought hit me like I just stuck a fork in a socket. What happened to Finn's car? I asked Brock. The Wilmington PD found it here in the lot. The report doesn't say anything more than that. Could be in the impound. But Finn hasn't been formally suspected of a crime. The car wouldn't be evidence. Then it'd be towed back, Barack said, pointing to the sign on the light pole closest to my car. Warning. It read, unauthorized vehicles will be towed. Eventually, I said, it'd be towed eventually. You don't think... I nodded. If his family didn't pick it up, Finn's car could still be here. Unfortunately, neither Barack nor I had any idea what Finn's car looked like. Steve checked with the front desk, but they said they didn't record license plates. The reason was easy to guess. It provided plausible deniability for any number of law enforcement requests, such as this one. If Lieutenant Esposito ever returned my call, I could ask if she had Finn's license plate number handy. Steve offered to have one of his pals at service headquarters do a record search, but I was worried about raising flags. We paced a lot. Paced a lot. Barack had his hand on his chin, trying to get the gray matter to work overtime. I never picked up the hand on the chin trick. Whenever I tried, I didn't look like I was thinking. I just looked like I was confused. The pickup isn't his, I said. We can cross that off the list. You sure? Barack asked. He lived in Riverside. The area is 90% black. He wouldn't last long with that Confederate flag on his license plate. Cross it off the list. And that's a Virginia plate, I said, pointing to the newer Mini Cooper. I don't see him having registered with the Virginia DMV unless he was leading some sort of double life. Plenty of addicts lead double lives, but most addicts don't register their cars in other states for the fun of it. So Oakham's razor says it's not his car, Barack said. Oakham? William of Oakham. He was an English philosopher who had the theory that the simplest answer was always the correct one. Was usually the correct one. I nodded. I vaguely remember the term from my law school degrees, but only vaguely. These eliminations left just 2 cars, both with the dark blue plates proclaiming Delaware the first state. One was a Buick Century, the other was a Chevy Impala. Both looked like they were from the last century. Of course, I walked around back of the cars. And examined their bumpers. Found it, I said, patting the Buick Century on the trunk. Riding with Biden, Barack said, reading the faded bumper sticker. Cute. The driver's door was locked. I peered into the back seat. It was a mess of plastic to-go cups and empty to-go bags and empty styrofoam cups. Looks like he'd been living out of his car. Looks like your car, actually, Barack said, peering into the front driver's side window. Looks like someone beat us here, too. He reached the passenger side door and opened it. Maybe he left it unlocked? Barack ran a finger over the rim of the window, stopping at a scratch in the glass. Someone jimmied the door. That's why it's unlocked. Not a clean job, though. A professional wouldn't have left marks like this. I examined the scratches. How do you know so much about jimmying locks? You've never locked your keys in the car before? That's what a towing company is for, I said. If you can afford AAA, Barack said. If you're a high schooler and you spent all your money on Al Green records and six-packs, you've got to rely on other means. Like friends who boost cars. I shook my head. We had been very different adolescents, to say the least. I popped the button of his trunk. I've had a jimmy car before like that, locking my keys in. I mean, it works. I don't advise doing it. I don't condone it, but shoot, you gotta get your keys out one way or the other. Thankfully now I have a car that won't lock my keys in, so don't have to worry about it. And I keep the spare where it won't get locked in the car. I popped the bottom of the trunk, the button for the trunk, while Barack searched through the back. I checked out the glove compartment. Still didn't know what we were looking for, but the glove compartment was a bust. I found the car's registration in the yellow manual where was I? Still don't know what we were looking for. That hadn't been cracked open since the Reagan administration, but no insurance card. Finn must have kept it in his wallet. I felt underneath the seats. Nothing there but used napkins. I sighed. I hadn't been expecting to find a handwritten manifesto, but I hoped there'd be something. A secret laptop that he hadn't told me about, with files that showed what he was really up to. Anything to shed light on the mystery that his life had become. Barack slammed the trunk shut, then knocked on the back window. I reached over and popped the lock. They don't make back seats like this anymore, he said. They sure don't. Back seats were where the action was. Back in the day, there was one car, the Chevy. I'd gotten it for my 16th birthday, with a back seat as big as a king-size bed. I had big intentions on putting it to use, but too timid around girls to be much of a Romeo in high school. You children are too young. Too young! The first time I got intimate in a car wasn't until several decades later, during the '88 campaign. Jill and I were in the parking lot of the Iowa State Fair, waiting on my Secret Service detail. I kissed my beautiful bride on the lips, and she kissed back with a little tongue. Before we knew it, we were rounding first base in the back seat of a rental car, while my personal aide kept tapping on the window to get our attention. I got caught out at second. know what you're talking about. Shut up. How can someone live like this? Get serious. Serious. He was pawing through the trash on the floor behind me. Sometimes you just forget to clean out your car, I said. It's not a top priority for most people. Maybe you should make it a priority. Me? Yes, you. Barack said. It took me 20 minutes to clean out your car just so Steve would have a place to sit. I don't even want to think about what happens when you hit the road. Windows open and all the trash starts flying up into the air. You're liable to cause an accident driving around like that. I hadn't taken the car out all summer. The garage in the back, was from the... I can't read. The garbage in the back was from the days I'd been going to the University of Pennsylvania campus for the spring semester, and it had always been raining. I didn't say any of this, though, because it wasn't any of Barack's business. Sorry, I don't have Secret Service to vacuum my car out like some people do, I mumbled. Barack went around the passenger seat. You know, Joe. What? I said, daring him, taunting him to do his worst. To say something that couldn't be taken back. To say what he really thought of me. For once. To speak what was truly on his mind. I think we're onto something here. Barack held up a styrofoam cup with a Waffle Depot logo. I haven't seen a Waffle Depot in a minute. What does this look like to you? A coffee cup? There's a dozen of these bad boys, he said, along with a bunch to-go bags. Looks like, before work, he would stop at the Waffle Depot for coffee, maybe a bite to eat. I thought this over. Finn's shift began early in the morning before the sun was up. There wasn't many early-hour diners between the motel and Wilmington Station. There was, however, a Waffle Depot. Do you think he went there the day of the accident, I asked. Barack held up a receipt. I know he went the day before, at least. Says here his server was named Tina. Maybe he'd said something. Maybe he was acting funny? I paused. We could swing by, just for a bite. I haven't had anything since lunch. I'm so hungry I could eat. I'm so hungry I could eat the balls off a low-flying goose. You're welcome, Internet. Barack started to say something, then stopped. Hey, Steve, he shouted across the lot. You like waffles? That's chapter 16. I was going to go straight into 17, but this is already an 18-minute long video, so I'll post them on the same day, but we'll jump into 17 in a little bit later. So that was a chapter and a half right there. So it's definitely kind of turned from a regular kind of mystery story, just trying to figure out like a cop mystery kind of story thing, to now like a full-on murder mystery, maybe, perhaps. We're not sure. We will find out. So they're gonna go get waffles. I do like a good waffle. Like I've said before, this book absolutely cracked me up, but then there's some really serious notes and like some good commentary about what's going on in the world and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying it. I hope you guys are too. And like always, what are your ideas? What are your predictions? Let me know below. I'd love to know. If you're enjoying this book. I know I'm not the best reader in the world, but it is quite fun. If you want to read it on your own and you don't want to listen to me stammer, I got this. Well, I got it as a Christmas present, but clearly it was from Target. You can get it at Target, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, any of those places, Amazon, I'm sure. So, yeah. Boop. Yeah, boop it. That like button and subscribe, and I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.